All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to forget everything you think you know about history, because today we are diving deep into my drawl. And this isn't just some fantasy world. This is a world built, literally, on the ashes of our own. A place where every single myth, every legend, every monster that ever haunted your childhood bedtime stories, well, it's all terrifyingly real now.
The age of humanity has passed, yet only just begun. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That first part, that's basically the tombstone for our entire civilization. The age of humanity has passed. All of our achievements, our history, our science, poof, gone. And in its place, something primal has been unleashed. But then you get that second part, yet only just begun. And that's the really chilling part. It hints at a whole new, terrifying evolution, a brand new struggle for survival in a world that feels both ancient and shockingly new at the same time.
So, you're probably wondering, what does this new world actually look like? Well, just try to imagine every single nightmare, every myth you've ever heard, suddenly becoming your day-to-day reality. We're talking vampires who aren't just in books anymore. They're the new high society, the aristocrats of the night. And lycanthropes, or werewolves, they're not just legends. They are very real, very territorial predators. But here's what's maybe the most wild part. What's happened to us? See, humanity wasn't just wiped out. It's almost like we were overwritten. We fractured into totally new species like the draconic Draconi, and at the same time, beings we thought were just fantasy. You know, orcs, trolls, these hives, they're now just walking around the ruins of our old cities. It's a lot.
Okay, so with all this epic chaos, how does society even function? Well, take a look at Midian City. It's one of the last big human strongholds, but it's complicated. There's this super uneasy truce holding everything together. The city is literally carved up into territories. You've got the vampires, right? They run the nightlife, the downtown core, all the fancy restaurants. Then you have the lycans controlling the docks, all the shipping, and the big forests outside the city. And the demons? They're pushed into the ghettos, the slums, the, trashier parts of town. It's an absolute powder keg, and believe me, everyone's got a match.
So, in a world just teeming with monsters, who's looking out for humanity? Who's in our corner? That would be the Death Hunter Corps. And you gotta understand, these guys aren't just soldiers. They're also mediators. They're diplomats. They're the protectors trying to hold the line for what little is left of the original human race. In a world where most things see humans as little more than prey, the Death Hunter Corps is pretty much the last beacon of defiance.
And of course, every resistance needs a hero, a leader. For humanity, that's Marcus Alistar. This guy is way more than just another soldier in the Death Hunter Corps. He is, for all intents and purposes, the living embodiment of humanity's will to survive. His story? That's our window into this absolutely brutal, kinda beautiful, and totally broken new world.
All right, so we've seen the street-level view, right? The factions, the fighting, the brutal reality on the ground. But the big question is, how? How in the world did things get this way? Well, you're not going to find the answer in any of our old history books. The answer, my friends, is written in the stars.
The answer lies with a group of beings known simply as the Architects. And these are not your typical aliens. We're talking celestial, godlike entities from way beyond the stars. They didn't invade with ships and lasers or anything like that. No, they came to Earth and just unlocked it. It's like they turned a key in the lock of reality itself, and suddenly, every myth, every legend we'd ever dreamed up came flooding right into our world.
So, fundamentally, this entire universe boils down to a massive cosmic tug-of-war. On one side, you have the formless. Think of it like raw, unshaped energy, pure chaos, pure potential. And on the other side, you have the formed. That's everything that's been given shape and existence. Our reality, the stories, the beings of my drawl, all of it. So the core conflict, the engine of this whole story, is that struggle between what has been created and the constant threat of it all being undone and returned to chaos.
And, a force of pure chaos needs a champion, right? Well, the Formless have one. He's called the Dark Jester, Kunjiro Fei Akuma of House Kunjiro. This guy, he's enigmatic, he's terrifying, and he and his whole house are basically the prime agents of chaos, actively working to just unravel the entire fabric of existence.
Okay. So we've got these cosmic gods on one end and street-level monsters on the other. But what are the actual rules here? What are the physics of this new universe? How does power actually work in my drawl? Well, it all starts with the magic that is now literally flowing through the world.
So at its most basic level, the magic here is elemental. You've got your four classics: fire, water, earth, and air.
Simple enough. But kind of like alchemy, the real power, the cool stuff, happens when you start combining them. Mix fire and water, you get scalding steam. You combine earth and air, boom, you've got a blinding sandstorm. It's a really brilliant system that shows both the creative and the incredibly destructive potential that now flows through, well, pretty much everything.
But then, layered on top of all that elemental stuff, is a much simpler but way more profound duality. Light and dark. And these aren't just more elements. No, these are like philosophical forces. It's the very essence of creation versus destruction, order versus chaos. So every spell, every single action anyone takes is influenced by this constant universal push and pull between these two essences.
And then, way at the top of this whole cosmic food chain, you've got the Sion Trinity. Now, these three aren't just gods in the traditional sense. It's better to think of them as the literal operating system for reality. Seriously, think of it like this. The water mind is like the source code, the god of information and truth. The fire soul is the raw processing power, the god of faith and aether. And the earth body, that's the hardware, the god of life and essence itself. The balance between these three is the only thing keeping the entire multiverse from blue screening.
You know, this world wasn't really born, it was more like it was scarred into existence. This history is written in blood. I mean, look at this timeline. It all kicked off with the first creation, when those architects first reshaped Earth and unleashed all the monsters. That led directly to the Kaiser Wars, which was just this brutal assault on humanity by the agents of chaos. And after that, the Shadow Wars, a period so dark and chaotic that a lot of its history is just lost. So the present day we're seeing, it's not a time of peace, not even close. It's just the latest fragile chapter in what feels like an eternal war. All right, so let's get into some of the major players you'll find in this world. First up, the elves, and I want you to throw out the idea of them just being graceful archers. In this universe, they are the OGs of magic. They're the original conduits, these ancient, immortal beings tied to the light who were the very first to figure out how to shape and control the flow of mana.
And you know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So on the other side of the coin, you've got the dwarves. They're deeply connected to the earth and to the essence of darkness. They're master craftsmen, sure, but their real power comes from runic magic, which is totally different. It's not about flowing mana, it's about etching power, curses, and boons directly into the very bones of the world itself.
And then you have the Draconi. And let's be super clear about this, they don't ride dragons, they are dragons. These are descendants of some ancient reptilian race, Earth's original rulers, and they've been reawakened with the jaw-dropping ability to transform into the very dragons of lore that sleep inside their blood.
And honestly, we're just scratching the surface here. This world is absolutely teeming with stories waiting to be discovered. You've got ancient vampire houses scheming against each other in these decadent gilded halls. You've got cursed lycanthrope bloodlines fighting brutal turf wars down at the docks. There are secretive magi practicing ancient forbidden arts in hidden cities. Even the legendary heroes of old, the Sion Titans, are scattered to the winds and hiding. Literally every corner of this world holds another conflict, another secret, another legend just waiting to be told.
Which of course brings us to the final most important question of all. In a world where reality itself has been totally rewritten, where monsters are your neighbors and gods walk the earth, all the old rules are gone. Everything, survival, power, what's right and wrong, it's all up for grabs now. So the only question left to ask yourself is this: in a world reborn by myth, who will you become?